Good evening, everybody. It's Judy from Fox Cities Quilt Company, and I am here for another installment of our Sunday from the Sewing Room. So I'm trying this with just my camera today, or my phone today, and a tripod that Brandon had me buy. No cameraman today. So we wore Tim out today and yesterday getting the new shop ready. It's looking fantastic. There's a lot of painting that has been done, and this week the carpets will get cleaned and all kinds of stuff. So that man and everybody else that backs me up has put in 12 hours yesterday and today working on that shop. So we're pretty excited to bring it to you. So I always struggle with what to teach you guys or what secrets and wonder if they're actually secrets when I try to bring you these videos. So I kind of just make them up as I go along or as something presents itself to me. So today I was getting ready to quilt somebody's quilt that they had brought me for long arming, and the back wasn't together. So the backing needed to be 2 equal pieces of fabric of the same length. So, and then she's going to piece it horizontally to make it work. Actually, the quilt is square, so it doesn't matter if it's vertical or horizontal, but she just needed 2 equal pieces of fabric. And she got the fabric in the shop. And so what we did was, I'll try and get you to see this, is we cut one really long piece of fabric. I think that this is like 5.5 yards of fabric or something crazy like that. So I'll try and step back here so you can see it. So you can see that it is one really big long piece of fabric. So I have it right as it's come off the bolt. So you can see here's the fold as it's come off the bolt, and here is the selvage end as it has come off the bolt. And this is a trick that you can do if you have a non-directional fabric and a backing that requires only 2 pieces. So let's say, for instance, your quilt was 60 by 76. You would need 68 inches of backing twice. So you would need 120, that's 124 inches. Okay, so let's pretend that this is 124 inches of fabric. So then what I do is I just bring it home just the way it is, just right off the bolt. So here is the ends that are cut, and here is one end, just as it came off the bolt. Here's the fold, and here is the selvage. And then here is the other end, just as it came off the bolt, and here is the fold, and here is the selvage. So I want to make sure that these 2 pieces are exactly together, exactly as it came off the bolt. So you don't have to mess with it at all. You don't have to iron it. You don't have to do anything. Just make sure that you have your raw edges or your cut edges together. Now I'm going to try and turn you sideways so that you can see onto my sewing machine. So I'm going to flip you around here, so you can see onto my sewing machine, and let's go this way. Here we go. And if I'm upside down, let me know, okay? I'm going to take you off this thing here. Rotate your phone. Oh my gosh, what a mess I'm making. Okay, so let's turn you around. Okay, now you can see onto heavens to Murgatroyd. That was quite the ordeal, wasn't it? So now I can turn you around so that you can see that these are the cut ends, and they're just right side. They're together just like they came off. Just like they came off the bolt. So what I do is I leave it this way, and then inside these 4 pieces of fabric, inside there are 2 that are right sides together, already set for you. So if you remember from a previous video, what I do is I have, you know, all these marks on my sewing cabinet anyway. So, and I have a regular sewing foot on here. Let me move this cord. I have a regular sewing foot on here because I'm going to take a really, really big seam allowance from these two center pieces of fabric that are right sides together. So here is my 1 inch seam allowance, and I'm even going to go a little further. I'm going to go maybe an 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. I happen to know on this particular quilt that it's 75 inches square. So I don't need to get really, really close to that selvage. I can take a generous seam allowance and that will be just fine. And I'll show you why I like the generous seam allowance. So I'm going to go up here to this mark right here. And I'm just going to take a regular stitch and I am going to stitch with these two pieces just together. And I'm just going to move the fabric away as I go. And again, remember, I'm not much of a pinner. So we're just going to take it all the way down. And if I had fast motion, I would do that for you. But I don't. So this might take a couple minutes. So we're just going to stitch all the way down, just moving the fabric aside while these two are right sides together. And you can see the two white selvage pieces are together. So we're just going to keep stitching. I hope that's not too loud in the camera. And we're just going to keep going here. I do this way because it always seems when I go to measure, if I try to measure two equal pieces, one always ends up like 1 inch off or 1.5 inches off. For some reason, I can never get it exactly right, and I just got tired of fussing with it. So I just left the raw edges together, and you can just keep sewing down without having to cut the fabric. And I know that looks like a huge seam allowance, but I'm going to show you why I did that in just a second here. The other thing is that I never like sewing close to this selvage because this will twist on you. It just is different. And when you get it to the long armor, it tends to sometimes pucker if you get too close to that selvage edge. And I'm almost done here. So still taking quite the generous seam allowance. Boy, I'm really making you guys hop around right now. So still quite the generous seam allowance. And I'm sewing all the way down with just a regular stitch, a 2.0 stitch. And I'm just going to keep going. I am almost to the end, and when I get to the end here, it's kind of important that I show you where to stop because you're not going to go off the edge. So we're going to keep going. Still right sides together, and your selvages are still together. And we're almost to the very edge. And remember, I didn't pin and I didn't cut this big long piece of fabric. I just kept sewing. Pretty soon you're going to see my finger come up here because this is the very edge of the fabric. We're getting to the very, very edge. And I don't sew off the edge of the fabric. I leave just a little tiny bit right there. And I'm going to give it a little back stitch. Oops, or not. Okay, so I'm going to cut this. For some reason, my machine is being goofy today. So I'm going to cut this. Now, as you can see, I just have one great big long piece. Here we go. I got to turn you this way, it says. Now I just have one great big long piece of fabric. So I'm going to try and get you back on my tripod here so that I can show you how I press this, because it's really kind of a good trick. So I'm going to take you over to my sewing machine. I'll turn your back around again. I know I'm doing a lot of flipping today. And I love it. I'm looking out my window and the sun is still out. I got up at 4 in the morning because my body said 5, but I'm so excited that the sun is still out. So I'm going to point you down to, and see if you can see my iron, which I think it looks like you can. So here is that seam that I just sewed along the seam allowance right there. And then this is the raw edges that were cut right, and then I left it right sides together. So I'm going to go all the way down here to where the edges came together, and now it's just like one big folded piece of fabric. So you just kind of shake this out, and you can iron this all out so that it is nice and flat. I'm gonna just start it for you and then quickly go to the edge so that you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm lucky enough to have this really big board to iron on. Let me get this off the edge. So what's really cool about this, now down here towards you is that seamed edge where I sewed. You can't hardly see it though. What's really cool about this is now you can press your entire backing at one time. And if you don't like it when that crease is still in there, just give it a little spritz of Best Press, or you can steam it. Best Press will work really, really well, and it will work through all of the layers of fabric. So I'm just pressing this, and then I want to make sure also that I press the seam that I just sewed, because it gives it a really, it sets those threads right in there, and it really gives it a really nice edge for when you take this apart to fold it out. Okay, so let's pretend that I press this entire thing, and now I'm at the top where this folded edge is. Let me turn you a little bit like that. Now I'm at the very, very top where this folded edge is, and I really want to press this really, really nicely. So I am going to steam it so that I get a nice crease in here. And it's really, it gives you a good guide. And then I'm actually going to hit it with a little Best Press too, because I want that to be nice and crisp on that edge. Okay. And then this, remove my fabric again. I need a studio, I think. So this is the seam where I sewed. And this is the folded edge along one piece. And so now what I'm going to do is, remember that little gap that I left? So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to stick it right in there. And then because I pressed that so nicely, if you've got good dressmaker scissors, you can literally just go all the way down and open up this fold. And let me finish that. I'm kind of at a weird angle so I can show you, so it's not doing it as nicely as I'd like. Let me go back this way. And now you have your entire backing. all sewn and you didn't have to cut it. So then you're probably wondering, why do you have this huge seam allowance? Well, you can just take a snip just on the inside of that selvage. And what this does is it enables you to just tear that selvage right off, and you still have a proper seam allowance to iron open to give to your long armor. And as a long armor, I like the edges torn, and the reason that I do is because it doesn't give you a sharp edge, because you tend to see that on the back, especially if your fabric is nice and taut. So let me finish tearing this. I don't know, there's something really awesome about tearing fabric. I love it. Okay, so now your selvages are off. And I don't know, you can go tie up your tomatoes or hydrangeas with that, or make something cool. I did see a girl the other day with selvages for shoelaces. That was kind of cool. So, and then you can just go and press your back open, and you are done. So that is the quick and dirty trick that I do in order to do backings quickly. So, because I don't like to struggle with trying to cut the piece. So, and then the other thing to keep in mind is that it will not work with a directional fabric. So if you have something that is directional, you can't put it right sides together. You will have to cut it and turn one of the pieces. Because if you put, oops, now I'm messing with you guys. Oh, and I dropped you. Are you guys okay? If you use a directional fabric and you don't turn it, then your design will be, you know, next to each other, and it won't be all in one direction. So that's the quick and dirty. So just leave your backing folded just like it came off the bolt. Stitch those two inside selvages right sides together all the way to the edge, and then iron it, both pieces at one time, split it open, and you're done. So that is our tip for the day. Keep watching and keep watching Facebook, because we are going to have some more updates on the move. So the men behind Fox Cities Quilt Company worked really hard this weekend, so we're very excited, and we hope that you really like this video. If you have any suggestions for any other videos, please let us know. We'd love to show you, and I will try every week to get a little bit better at this. So I know this one was really bad camera, so, you know. Thanks a lot for watching. Hi, Audra. We'll talk to you later. Bye.